Bottom Line Podcast. I'm Jimmy Fedizzi alongside Neil Villapiano. We hope you're doing well. As always, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to take a listen. We really do appreciate it. Before we get started, questions, opinions, Twitter and Instagram at Bottom Line, WMCX, and on Twitter at The NVP Show. Use hashtag Bottom Line. Leave a voice message on Anchor, the app, or at anchor.fm. And please leave a like and a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. And please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you do not miss a single episode. And please make sure you subscribe on all audio listening platforms. Just include Jimmy when searching for this podcast. Neil, I know you're only joining me one day a week now as opposed to two because of your incredibly busy schedule. But I know it's still a new week. We haven't spoken to each other yet. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. The weather's not great, but that's okay. We've had, a couple good days of solid weather nonetheless, but I'm doing well. Like you mentioned, been very busy with doing a bunch of stuff that I'm doing with Mofobo, as well as the Devil's State of Mind podcast. Also continuing to write my next book. So I'm kept very busy throughout the week. What about you?
Yeah, same here. And it seems like Mother Nature can't make up its mind in Jersey here today. It doesn't know whether it wants to be warm, cold.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's doing.
Yeah. This has been a weird. I think it is safe to say that global warming does exist. That's my opinion. But nonetheless, it's a lot of our falls nowadays definitely feel more like August than really fall time frame.
Yeah, definitely. One of the many reasons why people's immune systems are all out of whack, but that's another argument for another day. We're not going to get into all that.
Not even an argument.
This is not the podcast for that. But anyway.
Not even an argument.
No. So before we get started with what we want to talk about, just a couple of quick things here. Neil, I know you have a trivia question. We'll get into that in a little bit. But
I know you have an announcement to make, do you not?
Yes, I do actually, and it pertains to
next Thursday.
The Blue Claws, who I am a proud employee of. I'm a proud member of the Claws crew. That's what they call themselves.
That's so cringy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's really cringy.
It is, but you know what? In all seriousness, they are a great team to work for, and they are such nice people. And the team has been nothing but kind to us over the past many, many years, and I'm very, very happy to be working for them. But they made an announcement the other night that they're completely rebranding themselves. In case you missed it on their Facebook Live feed last night, which was October 21st, 2020, they underwent a name change. So they are now known as the Jersey Shore Blue Claws. So, and they're still going to be in Lakewood. They did announce as well that they're going to be in Lakewood for at least another 10 years until the 2031 season. So they're still in Lakewood, but they are no longer the Lakewood Blue Claws. Although I'm still probably going to be calling them that for a while. So sorry in advance, but the Jersey Shore Blue Claws are their new name, and I am really, really looking forward to the future of this team. It is very, very bright. So.
I thought when they were making their announcement and they said they were, changing their name to the Jersey Shore, I started to wonder if they were actually going to build a stadium in Asbury Park.
Obviously that would have been
tremendous. There's absolutely no room. Well, there's no room. There's no room for that. So that's why, that's why when they said they were changing their name, I wonder if that meant that they were moving to some other location on the shore, to, kind of like the Staten Island Yankees,
right. Yeah.
Like right on the river there. But no, actually it makes a lot of sense. Lakewood is not that far away from the shore. But I do get it. It makes sense. They're closer to the shore than they are Philadelphia. And really the shore is just basically any part on the east side of New Jersey. So anywhere down the line, whether it's you're up here in Monmouth County or you go all the way down to Cape May, you're basically on the Jersey Shore, so to speak.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense. Look, every now and then you got to change the names. You got to change the style of your minor league teams. The Blue Claws, they're not really changing much. All they're really doing is changing the name. Their title name. They're still going to be playing Lakewood. Great ballpark to go see a minor league game. And, good for them. It's always nice to try something new. And I'm sure a lot of people will be excited nonetheless to see to see the Jersey Shore Blue Claws.
Yes, we'll definitely have to get used to saying that for quite some time. But congratulations to them. I'm very, very happy for them, and I'm really looking forward to the future of this team. But with that being said, Neil, I know you said you guaranteed I will not get the answer to this trivia question, so the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I actually thought you were going to introduce what we were talking about today before I jumped into this trivia question.
Sure.
I guess I'll just ask it. So we're obviously going to be talking about the legendary Mike Doc Emrick, the great play-by-play hockey broadcaster, a man who was one of the first broadcasters for the New Jersey Devils when they first came to New Jersey.
Yes.
He eventually became the lead voice on NBC covering the national televised games. He covered many different Stanley Cup final games, many different Olympic games. He covered also other sports. He actually did a couple baseball games with the Pirates during spring training a couple years, because he's a big Pittsburgh Pirates fan. But he's done a bunch. And this past Monday morning, he announced that he was stepping away after, I think, 35,
nearly 50 years.
Nearly 50 years in the business, which makes sense. The man is 74 years old. We are still in a pandemic. Luckily for him, he was able to do all the games from his home. And shout out to NBC for doing a really good job with that. But, that's kind of another one of the things where you say, that's part of my childhood. I grew up, idolizing Doc because, quite frankly, being a Devils fan, listening to him all the time, he became a household name. He became a favorite. And he was one of the big reasons that I got into this whole business of broadcasting and sports media in general. And, I personally would like to thank him for all the contributions that he made, both in New Jersey and also just nationally as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
But today we're going to be discussing our lists of the top 5 Doc Emrick moments. It's, I don't know what Jimmy has. He doesn't know what I have.
I don't know what you have either. So
we probably have similar things on our lists. May not be in the same order, but it'll
maybe.
all be around.
We'll see.
Right. But that brings me into my trivia question for the day. So as I mentioned before, Doc Emrick, well known for being the play-by-play TV voice of the New Jersey Devils, also for NBC covering Stanley Cup Final, Olympic Games, and so much more. But my question to you, Jimmy, is this. Doc Emrick began his broadcasting career in 1973.
Yes.
What team was he a broadcaster of? Who gave him his first break in the broadcasting business? You have 3 guesses.
Wow, you're actually giving me 3 guesses. Okay. All right.
The name is so out there that you would just be like, oh.
So then I'm assuming then it was not a team in the NHL then, if that's the case.
Maybe it was. I'm not sure.
Oh boy. So 1970. So
1973 to be exact.
73. All right.
I don't know if that really helps, but I just thought
it wasn't the Rangers.
That.
I know that. I know we did Rangers radio for a while before doing the Devils, but that's beside the point. I think one of my guesses is gonna be not the Sabres.
You gotta make some
not the
guess.
Sabres.
Otherwise, we're gonna
because Rick Jeanneret started for them in the 70s, and he's still there.
He's been there since their inception.
What's that?
He's been there since their inception.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So not the Sabres. They're out. Think of the teams that were around in the 70s. Wow, this is a really good one. I gotta admit. Was it? Oh my gosh. It wasn't Montreal, right?
No.
It was not. Okay, so that's one guess.
That's one. That's one.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
You keep this up, we're going to be here all day.
Well,
We have a lot to get to, so
we'll be here for 3 hours. Huh?
yeah.
I
got other stuff I got to do today, so
I'm only kidding around.
Speaking of which, I just got an ESPN notification about Doc Emrick.
All right. Get to that in a little bit. Was it Boston?
No.
Damn.
You have
all right.
one more guess.
All right, so one more guess.
One more guess.
The Red Wings?
Nope.
Damn it. All right.
So,
who was it?
So first of all, it was not an NHL team.
I figured. Who was it?
Because usually people don't start right away in the NHL.
Right.
Doc Emrick was hired by the Port Huron Flags of the WHLS, or excuse me, the IHL, excuse me, the Independent, or I guess the Industrial Hockey League to be exact. He was hired by General Manager Morris Snyder to do the play-by-play on WHLS radio and public relations for the team.
Yeah, there's no way in hell.
There was no way you were going to get that
answer.
There was absolutely no way. That's why I picked it. Because that's one of his stories that I've heard. He used to constantly be going to those games and sitting way up in the stands and broadcasting to a little recorder and everything. And as he continued to get older and obviously gain education and everything, he gained the attention. And it's interesting. He also, interestingly enough, he taught speech and broadcasting at Geneva College in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. And for those of you that
I did know, yes.
Yeah, and for those of you that probably know Beaver Falls, that's the home of Joe Namath and a couple of other great Hall of Fame quarterbacks. His first experience in the NHL actually came in 1969-1971 as he worked as an unpaid correspondent covering the Pittsburgh Penguins for the Beaver County Times newspaper. So that wasn't his first broadcasting. That was kind of his first action in the NHL in 1969, from 1969 to 1971. I don't think he actually do games for the Rangers, because I don't have anything here.
Yeah,
it says that he worked for the Flyers.
I know he did. Yeah, I know he did Rangers radio. I believe it was sometime around the 80s he did Rangers radio. I forget exactly in what time frame. I gotta go back and look that up. But I know he did that before going to the Devils. I know he was I know he started with the Devils first off in the 80s before leaving there. Then Gary Thorne came in, and then he came back, and then the rest is history, as they like to say. So, but no, yeah, there was absolutely no way in hell I was getting that one. I don't think half of our audience even knew the answer to that question either.
No,
so
I'm probably not
the only one.
I think it's safe to say that nobody was going to get that answer.
And by the way, yes, so you are right, Neil. He did start in the 80s working for the Philadelphia Flyers, so you are correct on that one. Yep. And I believe he worked with Bill Clement for a while before Gary Thorne. He
worked with Bill Clement for about 4 years.
Yes.
Yep.
But no, that was a very well thought out question. I like it, and I'll be sure to come back with a better one next week for you. We'll see about that. But yeah, speaking of next Thursday, I do have a bit of a announcement to make, but we'll get to that at the end of this episode. But yeah, so today, without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into our list of the top 5 Doc Emrick moments according to us. Now, full disclosure here, at least from my point of view, this was probably the hardest top 5 list I have ever put together in my life. I changed it.
Say that every single top 5 list.
Literally with this one, I changed it 5 times. That is how difficult this was, because what this man has meant, I know he's meant a lot to you, obviously growing up a Devils fan, Neil, but I honestly grew up with this man too. And he was one of the voices of my childhood, him and Sam Rosen, obviously, because I'm more of a Ranger fan than anything. But him and Sam Rosen are the reasons why I want to do this as well, and I'm going to keep doing this. And him and Sam are the reasons why. But with Doc, there's no denying that he's one of the best in the business. He's not only in the Hockey Hall of Fame, but he's in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. He's won countless Emmy Awards. he in the way he calls the way his style is very unique and probably one that we will never ever hear again in our lifetime. And that's very, very, I don't want to say sad to hear, considering the fact that other broadcasters have their own unique style of calling games, but the way he did it, the vocabulary he used, like, I had to go back and look up some of the words he was using. Like, I'm not going to get into that here. We'd be here for 3 hours, but you get my point. Some of the vocabulary he used was very, very exuberant in a way. I guess that's one of the words he liked to use a lot, but I digress. But no, seriously though, Doc, we're definitely going to miss you, and we can't thank you enough for all the countless memories that you've left us. So for my list in particular, as Neil, if you do not mind, as always, I would like to kick things off. So my list, primarily, I have a couple of national moments on my list. Well, that most of them are, but a couple of them relate to our teams, the Devils and the Rangers, because he's called a lot of big moments for our teams. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. So I will kick things off here with my list of the top 5 Doc Emrick moments. Number 5, we go to the 2008 Winter Classic, where Sidney Crosby scored the shootout goal against Buffalo. Now, obviously, that was the first ever NHL Winter Classic. It was the inaugural Winter Classic. I believe that was played in Buffalo, New York, if I'm not mistaken. If my memory banks serve me correctly, it was played in Buffalo.
You are correct.
And obviously, it was a very, very tight game. Both teams were going back and forth. It wound up going to a shootout. And then, of course, the man, the myth, the legend himself, the future Hall of Famer, Sidney Crosby, at least in my opinion, he is. The game was left on his...
I don't think anybody's going to doubt you saying that.
Yeah, exactly. But bottom line is the game was left on his shoulders, or his stick, as we like to say in hockey. It was left on his stick. He moves in on the goaltender, goes top shelf. Penguins win the first ever NHL Winter Classic. And just hearing his call of, "Score! Penguins win!" was just all you needed to hear, and let the crowd take over from there and let the Penguins do their thing. So Sidney Crosby's shootout goal against Buffalo in the 2008 Winter Classic is number 5 on my list of the top 5 Doc Emrick moments. Number 4, Neil, I think you'll appreciate this one. Martin Brodeur scoring a goal versus Montreal. His first career NHL goal. It was Game 2 of the Eastern Conference quarterfinals in 1997 against Montreal. Of course, we know what happened there. Coming down to a little over 2 minutes left with an empty net, Brodeur shoots the puck down the ice into the empty net and scores his first ever career NHL goal, which was also his first NHL playoff goal, which was also a big thing there. And, I don't think I need to say anything more about that. Just go listen to Doc Emrick's call on that. It really just, it speaks volumes. And, obviously he did Devils for a long time. So Martin Brodeur scoring a goal versus Montreal in 1997 is number 4 on my list.
He also called Ron Hextall scoring
Yes, he did. Well, yeah, most people tend to forget that was Doc Emrick who called the Ron Hextall's.
Well, us
goal.
Devils fans, we don't talk about the fact that Doc Emrick used to work for the Flyers. We don't talk about that. Anyway.
Trust me, as a Ranger fan, I don't want to live that either, but I digress. But we could probably get into an argument of who hates the Flyers more, Ranger fans or Devil fans, but that's when
I'd probably argue that it's probably Rangers fans. Because I think Devils' attention is more focused on the Hudson River rivalry than really the Battle of the Turnpike.
Yeah, but that's for another episode. But that's number 4 on my list. Martin Brodeur scoring a goal versus Montreal. Number 3, Derek Stepan's overtime goal versus the Washington Capitals in the Eastern Conference semifinals in 2015. Drive by Girardi to save, rebound, score, Stepan in overtime. The Rangers move on to Tampa. Obviously.
Oh, yeah. What happened after that?
I know what happened. They lost to Tampa, I believe. What was it, in 7 games that series went?
Yes.
Yes, it
They
was
lost game 7
So,
at home.
hey, you know what? You can't deny it was a very competitive series, though. But in all seriousness,
Yeah.
that call right there was definitely one of the best I ever heard. Obviously, the Rangers season did not go the way we would hoped, but that call definitely resonates with a lot of Ranger fans. I know a lot
Derek
of fans
Stepan's
of the
like
Rangers
last year
that
with the
call.
Rangers as well? Wasn't that
What's
Derek
that?
Stepan? Wasn't that Derek Stepan's last year with the Rangers as well?
I think you might be right, as ironic as that sounds. So I think you might be right. But no, yeah, unfortunately, would go on to lose to Tampa in 7. Tampa would go on to the Stanley Cup Finals, and who did they lose to?
The Chicago Blackhawks.
Exactly. So
who just announced that they are somehow going to do a rebuild.
Yeah, that's going to be very
until they trade Kane, Taves, and Duncan Keith. I don't believe it.
Yeah, exactly. But that call of Derek Stepan's goal definitely still resonates with a lot of Ranger fans, including myself 5 years later. That is number 3 on my list of the top 5 Doc Emrick moments. Quick recap here. Number 5, Sidney Crosby's shootout goal in the 2008 Winter Classic. Number 4, Marty Brodeur scoring a goal versus Montreal in 97. Number 3, Derek Stepan's overtime goal in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals versus the Capitals in 2015. Number 2, I gotta be honest, this one hurt to put on the list, but it's a classic, and Neil, I think you will appreciate this a lot more than number 4.
Oh, yeah?
At number 2, I hated to do it, Emrick, it's over.
Okay, first of all, that's
the reason why
it's disrespectful that it's at number 2. Should be at number 1.
Hey, you know what? At least acknowledge that it's in my top 5. At least I had the courage to put it on my list. And the reason why I did is because obviously, if you're a Ranger fan like me, it still hurts to look back on that series. But you know what? I got to look back at it as a hockey fan. From a hockey fan's perspective, that series was incredible. And just hearing Doc's call when Adam Emrick ended the series. I believe that series went 6 games, if I'm not mistaken.
You're correct.
But just hearing his call, I no joke, as a hockey fan in general, I got goosebumps. Because not only was that a Devils-Rangers game, but the fact that it was a Devils game on national television, I think that definitely resonates with not only just him. What's that?
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, how often do you see the Devils on national television?
Yeah, of course they were. It was conference finals. What are you talking about?
I'm just saying that. How often do you see them on national television? Not that often.
Oh, okay, so now you're taking a jab. All right, cool.
Oh, my God.
No,
anyway, but no, seriously, just being able to see him call a Devils game again since he stepped down after the 2011 season, just seeing him back on the mic to where, you know, he resonated for a long time. I feel like that really, really resonated with not only just him, but Devil fans like yourself, Neil. So that call definitely has to resonate with you.
I think for Devils fans of my age, that's about the biggest moment that we have to go off of at least right now. It was a big moment. To knock out the Rangers to go to the Cup final, to ruin Gary Bettman's plan of having a New York-LA series was even more sweet. We're not going to talk about the BS that was game number 6 and also game number 3 of the Cup final against LA. But yeah, nonetheless, it was a great call, and it was the right time to make that type of call in that moment. So.
Yes, no, absolutely.
But game 5 of that series was just as crazy as game number 6. Because game 5, goodness. The Devils came out and had a 3-0 lead midway through the first period. And then proceeded to give up the next 3 goals. And then one of my all-time favorite Devils, Ryan Carter, scored the game-winning goal about, I think, like halfway through the third period, make it 4-3.
Yep.
Zach Parise got an empty netter, and the Devils won 5-3. And they won in the Garden, which a lot of people thought at that time was terrible to do. But the Devils did, and they ended up winning game 6, and the rest is history.
Yes, absolutely. But as a hockey fan, it was incredible to hear his call on that. But as a Ranger fan, it still hurts me to this day, but I had to do it. But hey, Hey, at least acknowledge that I had the guts and the courage to put that in my top 5. That's number 2.
Well, now I'm curious to know
on
what
my
you have at
list.
number 1. Now I'm really curious to know.
Oh, you'll find out in a little bit, but quick
definitely
recap
Ranger.
here.
It definitely involves the Rangers, I would imagine.
Maybe, we'll see. But quick
Yeah,
recap here. Number 5, Sidney Crosby's shootout goal in the 2008 Winter Classic. Number 4, Marty Brodeur scoring a goal versus Montreal. Number 3, Derek Stepan's overtime goal in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals versus the Capitals. Number 2, Emrick, it's over. Honorable mentions. I have 2 honorable mentions before we get to number 1. One would be one that was fairly, well, a couple of these are fairly recent, but one occurred this year. And I don't know why I put this in my honorable mentions, but I just really, really enjoyed this call.
When you say this year, do you mean pre-bubble or post-bubble?
During the bubble, post-bubble. So this one, I just really enjoyed this call. Going back on it, I had to put this on just because personal preference. Jordan Eberle's overtime goal in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals versus Tampa Bay of this year. I just don't know what.
I don't even remember that.
Really, I don't know why. I just really enjoyed listening to Doc call that goal. I just love his enthusiasm. Yes, I do not like the Islanders, but his call, like, the Islanders win, Eberle the score, and double overtime. Like, there's just something about that. Really, he's like, I guess in a way you could say, kind of like, I guess it kind of motivated me in a way just to like not give up on what I'm doing. So I guess that's part of the reason why I put it in my honorable mentions list. So there you go. Jordan Eberle's overtime goal, Eastern Conference Finals, Game 5 of this year against Tampa Bay. And the last one here goes back to the season we don't like to talk about, but this was a great moment. The 2014 Rangers, and we're going to go back to Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, where Martin St. Louis scores in overtime to beat Montreal. Now, obviously, we know the story of what happened that year. Martin St. Louis, unfortunately, with the loss of his mother, we know what happened there. You could argue that the goal he scored against the Penguins was much bigger, where Doc would say, and
he
who else?
On Mother's Day.
So what's that?
He scored on Mother's Day.
Yes, he
that
did.
Was Mother's Day that they were playing that game that he scored on. So
yes, so you could argue that should definitely be another honorable mention on my list. But I felt terrible for not putting that actually on the list. But like I said, I changed it 5 times. It was on one of my initial lists, but after going back and listening to a couple more of his calls, I was like, oh boy.
I think if you were doing a list of like top 5 Doc Emrick calls that involved the Rangers, it probably would have been on there.
Without question.
If you had specified it, that would have made more sense.
But
we're not going to talk. So we're just not going to talk about Chris Kreider being an absolute jerk off and hurting Carey Price early in that series. And he did it on purpose.
We're not going to talk about that.
Rangers fans don't want to talk about it because they know that he's a dirty player.
Yes, he can be a dirty player. Yes.
And I'm putting this out here right now. Carey Price doesn't get hurt in that series. Rangers don't win that series. I'm just gonna call it like it is, because you don't really have. I know that the Flyers beat the Canadians this year. I know that, but let's be honest. 9 times out of 10, you're not beating Carey Price in a 7 game.
No, you're not. He's still one of the top goaltenders in this league.
Hell yeah, he is.
But no, Martin St. Louis' overtime goal, Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2014 is another honorable mention. So one more recap here before we get to number 1. Number 5, Sidney Crosby's shootout goal in Buffalo in the 2008 Winter Classic. Number 4, Martin Brodeur scoring his first NHL goal versus Montreal in 1997. Number 3, Derek Stepan's overtime goal in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals versus the Capitals in 2015. Number 2, Emrick, it's over. Honorable mentions, Jordan Eberle's overtime goal, Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals of this year against the Lightning, and Martin St. Louis' overtime goal in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2014. And Neil, number 1 actually has nothing to do with any of our teams. None. Because
I think I know your answer, so I'm kind of waiting on it.
Do you want to take a guess, or you just want me to tell you?
2014 USA versus Russia, TJ Sochi.
I hate you. I
Yeah,
actually hate
I
you.
know. I knew it was coming because
Oh my god. I
it makes
actually
too much
hate
sense.
you.
You didn't mention that at all. And I'm sitting here saying, there's no way he's just not going to mention it, right? Like, there's no way he's not going to mention it.
But no, dude, in all seriousness, how could it not be? Need I say any more? I
That's
don't
number
think so.
one.
I don't think. Yes, it is indeed
Well, I mean, yeah.
number one. Need I say any more? If you haven't even watched it, or if you just want to relive the moment, go look it up on YouTube. Just the way he narrates it is so perfect. And keep in mind, this was the preliminary round, not a gold medal game. The preliminary round against Russia, who was one of the top teams going into the Olympics.
Hello,
So
the damn Olympics was being played in Russia.
exactly
Putin
my
was
point.
sitting in the stands, expecting Russia to dominate.
Exactly. But no, in all seriousness, look, this was iconic, and we all know what happened with TJ Oshie. I mean, he put Team USA on his back, scoring 4 goals, including the game winner when it went to 8 rounds. An 8-round shootout, which was absolutely phenomenal. I don't think I need to say any more. The shootout in Sochi 2014 is number 1 on my list.
So my question to you is this. I have 2 questions, actually. This is like another trivia question for you. How many attempts did TJ Oshie have in that shootout? How many attempts?
6.
How many did he score?
4.
Very good.
I literally just said he scored 4 goals, including the game winner. What do you want from me?
Just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure. I wanted to see if I could say it and see if it could throw you off a little bit. And all of a sudden you make a mistake. No, but well done.
Not this time,
well done.
But a final recap here before Neil gives his list. Number 5, Sidney Crosby shootout goal versus Buffalo in the 2008 Winter Classic. Number 4, Marty Brodeur scoring a goal versus Montreal in '97. Number 3, Derek Stepan's overtime goal in Game 7 of the 2015 Eastern Conference semifinals. Number 2, Henrique, it's over. Honorable mentions, Jordan Eberle's overtime goal in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals of this year. Martin St. Louis overtime goal in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2014. And number 1, the shootout in Sochi 2014. That is my list of the top 5 Doc Emrick moments. Neil, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Jimmy. So, yeah, my list is a little bit less Devils and a lot more, national, international moments. Because when I look at Doc Emrick and you were talking about moments, it was more about just what were some of the iconic moments that Doc Emrick was a part of. He may not have made a call that everybody remembers, but he was the broadcaster in the moment that everybody will remember that he was there. So we'll kick things off with number 5, and we'll go back to the 2010 Winter Olympic Games, actually the gold medal game between USA and Canada, where Sidney Crosby, one of the many times that he broke my heart, he scored the game-winning goal, or as Canadians call it, the golden goal, in overtime to win the Olympic Games and just basically win the gold medal. Doc Emrick made a great call before that when Zach Parise scored the game-tying goal with 30 seconds left or something like that. But he was part of that, huge moment because that whole, remember, that Olympics was in Canada, Vancouver to be exact.
Yes.
And, you knew that going into that gold medal game, obviously there was going to be a smidget of American fans, and the rest of the place was going to be Canadian fans. And Sidney Crosby at that moment, he had just won a Stanley Cup the year before. He had been to the last 2, and he had become Sid the Kid. He had become arguably one of the best players in the game at that point, and he hadn't really had his moment in the international stage. And once he scored that goal, he cemented himself as a Canadian hockey legend. One of the greats of all time. And so he scored the game-winning goal to help Canada win the gold medal, which obviously was a tough pill to swallow, watching, Canada win. But, hopefully in the future, in 2022, hopefully the United States, with a lot more talent than they've had in years past, will be able to make a make a run at it, but we'll see.
Right.
Fun fact for those people that don't know, Jerome McGinley got the game-winning assist on that goal. I don't think a lot of people actually knew that, but Jerome McGinley scored and made the pass, which led to the goal that Sidney Crosby scored, and that is number 5 on my list. Number 4 is one that you actually had. You had it at number 5, and then it's the 2008 Winter Classic. And again, it's a moment. It wasn't the first outdoor NHL game that the NHL had ever done, but it was the first classic. It was the first time where they said, we really need to have these players go back to their roots. And what better place to go than Buffalo, New York, where it's snowing 99.9% of the time, and you have a chance to bring in, Sidney Crosby and the Penguins, the upstart Pittsburgh Penguins. Sidney Crosby being one of the faces of the league going into the new decade and everything. So it made a lot of sense, and it was snowing like crazy. It was just a great setting, and it made it better going into the fact that it had to go to a shootout, and it was very difficult for both teams to maneuver with the puck. Interestingly enough, Sidney Crosby went 5-hole, by the way.
Yep.
On the game-winning goal. He did not go top shelf.
Yeah, right. That was my bad.
No, it's fine. I just wanted everyone to understand. He went 5-hole and he won the game, and that was really one of his first big moments on the national stage. Yeah, he would eventually go on to play in the Cup final that year, but that was his first big moment in his career, where he's the captain of the team. He's one of the faces of the league, and the game comes down to his stick, and he scores the game winner in the first, official Winter Classic game. So that was a significant moment in NHL history.
And by the way, I'm sorry to cut you off in the middle of your list, but in case those that tend to forget, yes, Neil did mention Sidney Crosby and the Penguins did end up going to the Cup final that year, would lose to Detroit, then they would play Detroit again the following year, and the Penguins would win the Stanley Cup. So just thought I'd throw that little tidbit out there.
Fine. But then we shift to, I have a specific date. I actually have a couple of specific dates because they're very important. I'm going to take you back to St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2009. I was at this game. I personally was at this game. Martin Brodeur earned win number 552 to pass Patrick Roy on the all-time list for most wins in a career by a goaltender, and his record now is at 693, and I'm almost certain that nobody, I repeat, nobody will ever come close.
Nobody's touching that. I'm sorry.
That record. But March 17, 2009, Martin Brodeur and the New Jersey Devils took on the Chicago Blackhawks, and they won by the final score of 3-2, and Martin Brodeur became the winningest goaltender in National Hockey League history. I was at that game with my dad, my brother, and one of my cousins, and we actually had seats in 2 different sections. We had tickets in the upper decks, 233. Shout out to the 233 crazies at the Prudential Center. And then we also had seats on the ice behind the Blackhawks goal, because they were on there twice. 2 out of the 3 periods, but we were there too. And we kind of exchange every single time. So my brother and I sat up in the nosebleeds for the first period. Then my brother switched with my dad, and he sat down there for the second period, and I went down there with my cousin for the third period. So I got to be, ice level when the record was broken. Interestingly enough, and people actually forget this, but a lot of Devils fans will remember, that same game, Patrick Elias also became the all-time leader in points in a career in New Jersey Devils history as well. So 2 major milestones were broken and were achieved on that day. So it was a very, very special day in Devils history, in hockey history, and Doc Emrick obviously being, covering the New Jersey Devils. He was still really in the thick of things with the Devils covering for MSG, and he was the one that made that call and was there for that moment. So,
and Martin Brodeur is the winningest goaltender in the NHL, and then he proceeds to cut the net afterwards, and the rest is history.
Yep, and he would go on to win many more games after that. So that's number 3. To kind of quickly recap here, number 5, 2010 Winter Olympic gold medal game, Sidney Crosby scoring the golden goal. Number 4 is the 2008 Winter Classic between the Penguins and the Sabres, Sidney Crosby's game-winning goal in the shootout. I feel like this whole list is just going to be Sidney Crosby. We might as well make a top 5 list of the top 5 moments of Sidney Crosby's career at this point. And I just mentioned number 3, March 17th, 2009, Martin Brodeur earning win number 552. So now we go on to number 2. And another specific date, June 24th, 1995. So a little less than 2 years before I was actually born. The New Jersey Devils were in the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in franchise history, taking on the heavily favored Detroit Red Wings. Now, going into that series, everybody expected the Devils to lose, either getting swept or losing in 5. And it ended up happening the exact opposite way. The Devils absolutely kicked the crap out of the Red Wings.
They swept them,
sweeping them in 4 straight in one of what some people consider one of the biggest upsets in Stanley Cup Finals history. And as the seconds were ticking down in Game 4, Doc Emrick, working for, being a radio voice at that time, with the Devils and with the NHL as well, he made the famous call, the championship to New Jersey, the Devils win the Stanley Cup. That's actually the first and only time that Doc Emrick was calling a game either on TV or radio when the Devils won a cup, because he didn't do it in 2000 and he didn't do it in 2003. So this was kind of like the first and only experience of that.
Gary Thorne called the other 2 Stanley Cups for the Devils.
Well, no, I mean, he covered it on all 3 for TV, but what I'm saying is that Doc Emrick didn't cover on either side for 2000 or 2003. He was doing play-by-play throughout the regular season and even in the playoffs for the Devils, but not in the Stanley Cup Finals itself.
Right.
But that is number 2, an iconic moment for Devils fans. It was iconic for Doc Emrick because this was the first NHL team that really gave him his shot. And a lot of people thought that hockey would never work in New Jersey. And the fact that this team, about less than 15 years into existence, was able to go on and win the Stanley Cup and obviously rebound the very next year after losing in a heartbreaking fashion in Game 7 in 1994 to Stefan Mattel and the New York Rangers, who ended up winning the Stanley Cup in 1994 against Vancouver. But that's number 2 on my list. I actually have a top 5 honorable mentions. So I have because like you mentioned, and I'll mention it here, it was difficult to kind of figure out what were really the 5 most iconic moments. But I thought I'd mention some other ones so that people don't, shoot me later. The first one actually is not that long ago. It's actually 2 years ago. The 2018 Stanley Cup Finals, Game 2, the Washington Capitals playing the Vegas Golden Knights. And late in Game number 2, with the Vegas Golden Knights needing a goal to tie the game to at least force overtime, with them already leading the series 1-0, Braden Holtby made one of the greatest saves in Stanley Cup Finals history. And Doc Emrick absolutely lost his mind, and everybody else couldn't believe it. And I remember Eddie Olczyk said that, they're going to call that in Washington the save. And that was really the defining moment for the Capitals to win that Stanley Cup. Because I don't think if they give up that goal and they end up losing game number 2, I don't think they probably come back. I don't think they win that series.
No.
And I think Vegas would have a Stanley Cup right now. But that save changed the entire series around. The Capitals won that game. They won the next 3 and won the Stanley Cup for the first time in franchise history. But, Doc Emrick has made a lot of great calls in games. He has a tremendous, use of the English language with his outlandish amount of vocabulary. But that one was very simple, but still had the same energy, still had the same passion. Because when you're a broadcaster, you have to have that emotion for the moment. You have to create the moment to make it as big as it possibly can be. And that's what Doc Emrick did in that moment. So now the next honorable mention, and you're going to be shocked. I think you might be shocked. Okay. I'm going to go to, your number 1, and that is the 2014 Sochi Games.
All right. Well, hey, you know what? At least you acknowledge it. I'll give you that.
Of course I acknowledge it. And one of the things that I think, Doc Emrick made some sort of call either after the game or right before the end where he said people came and paid their, I don't know what he called it, like rublies or, whatever the currency is in that and expected a good game, and they left disappointed because obviously the United States won the game. And that was the biggest moment for, I think, Doc Emrick in Olympic Games, especially calling it for the United States. He called the national games, but obviously he is an American, and, calling that moment was certainly big. And as we know, the United States didn't win jack diddly squat in that Olympics, but that was still a nice moment nonetheless for TJ Sochi. So good for him.
I see what you did there.
To have that, but it was a very big moment. And Doc Emrick has called a lot of Olympic games, a lot of those international games. And I think even he will tell you that was probably his biggest and most favorite moment of his entire broadcasting career. So that's one. That's another one. Here's the third honorable mention. January 9th, 2010, Zach Parise scored an overtime goal against the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal. And the reason I bring that up,
this call, I remember this.
His voice cracked, which he said it never happened before, and it did not happen since. And it was just a great moment because, Chico Resch, who now continues to work for the Devils in the radio booth, was Doc Emrick's color commentator on TV for a long time. And Chico was laughing, because it was funny in the moment. It was exciting because the Devils won in overtime, but it was also funny just because his voice cracked and the moment was just that big. And every time I listen to it, I just laugh and I have a big smile on my face. I absolutely love that moment. It was a great moment it's just the middle of the regular season. So it was a great moment nonetheless. So that's another one. Another one here is not that long ago, about 6 years ago, actually. Devils were playing the New York Rangers in the 2014 Stadium Series game at Yankee Stadium. At this game. I personally was at this game. I still have the tickets from it. And the Devils went up 3-1 in that game, and a lot of people thought Henrik Lundqvist was going to get pulled because early on he looked really bad. Like he looked like he was completely lost. But in that second period, the Rangers just took it to another level, ended up blowing out the Devils by the score of 7-3, including Derek Stepan scoring a penalty shot goal in the third period. But I bring that moment up because we never got a chance to see an outdoor hockey game at the old Yankee Stadium. So we never got that chance, But going into 2014, you knew that was the possibility. You knew that the Yankee Stadium would be an iconic place to play it in the Bronx and to have an outdoor game. And that's what made it so special. And then you have two big rivals, the Hudson River rivalry, playing in that outdoor game. And I think that's what made it very iconic. And you think about all of the great venues that Doc Emrick has been able to call. I think having an opportunity to call a hockey game in one of baseball's cathedrals, obviously it's the new Yankee Stadium, but still baseball's cathedrals in Yankee Stadium was an iconic moment nonetheless. So that's why I put it in my honorable mentions. Now, my last honorable mention is one that was really more of a historical event in many regards. Same year, 2014 Winter Classic at Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor.
Yes.
Between the Detroit Red Wings and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Jimmy, would you like to take a guess as to how many fans were at that game?
Over 100,000.
Give me a specific number. Just throw a number out there. Let's see if we get it right.
105,000, I think.
Wow. Wow. To be exact, it was actually 105,491.
All right.
491. You left out about 491 fans.
I'll still take it.
That was good. Yes, 105,491 fans showed up at Ann Arbor to see that game, and it was a spectacle nonetheless. Again, snowing. It was just tremendous conditions for a hockey game. And the fact that over 100,000 people were at the game, watching a hockey game outdoors, was phenomenal. And it was it's still the biggest outdoor hockey game ever witnessed. And it was a great game. It went to a shootout. It was just between two original six franchises. It was just a great game and a great moment nonetheless. And, it was another one that, Doc Emrick had the pleasure of being at and calling. So that's my top 5 honorable mentions. If you want to give it
no
there.
big deal.
And number 1, Jimmy, we talked about it. It was number 2 on your list. You hate to bring it up, but I'll bring it up again. Game 6 of the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals, Devils versus Rangers. Emrick, it's over.
I had a feeling it'd be number 1 on your list.
And that was
go ahead.
It was the biggest moment of my life as a Devils fan. Obviously, you haven't seen the Devils win the cup, but I've seen them get very close. But it was a great moment. You're facing off against your biggest rival, and you're going to overtime, and you know that if you lose this game, you got to go play a Game 7 at the Garden, which seemed pretty much impossible to do. So you knew you had to find a way. And Adam Emrick, that was his rookie year. He had already scored a big series ending, overtime game-winning goal in Game 7 of the first round against the Florida Panthers.
Right.
And he had played very, very well in the postseason, really cementing himself as a really, really good hockey player. And then he had that big moment in game number 6, scoring the game-winning goal. And, Doc Emrick didn't have to say much. He just said, Emrick, it's over, and then he just let it go. He just let the crowd carry it the rest of the way. And my favorite moment of that whole sequence is watching Ryan McDonagh on one knee, just staring out into the abyss that he cannot believe that the series is over. And it was a great moment. And it really, once again, just made me feel so happy and proud to be a Devils fan, because Devils fans constantly have to live in the shadow of the Rangers fan, to a lesser extent the Flyers fan, and even to an even more lesser extent the Islanders. I think when you think of the New York metropolitan area, I think the Devils, a lot of people want to say they're 4th on the list. So getting to the conference finals, having to play the Rangers, knocking them out, and going to the Stanley Cup Finals just made it that much more sweet, and it made you feel proud to be a Devils fan. And even though Doc Emrick at that point was not, the TV play-by-play guy for the Devils anymore, I'm sure deep down, he won't admit this on record, but I'm sure deep down he was very happy to see the Devils do that and move on to the Cup Final. And that was something very, very big. And it was also great that, when the Cup Final happened, that he was calling the games as well. That made it great. It would have been nice to see us come back from down 3-0, and we came close. We came close. It would have been nice to play Game 7 at home, but just didn't happen that way. But number 1, definitely Adam Emrick. It's over. Game-winning goal. Gotta love it. And that's my list of the top 5 Doc moments of all time.
You may love it, but no. In all seriousness, I said,
I love it. That's why I made
it. Like I said before, from just a general hockey fan perspective, it was absolutely an unbelievable moment. And like you said, Doc, I'm sure would not admit it personally, like on record, but he would definitely love to go back and relive that moment for as long as he lives. But with that being said, Neil and I just want to end by saying, just Doc, thank you again for all of the great, countless moments that you have given, not just Neil and I, but countless hockey fans across the world. It's certainly not going to be the same without you, but you know what? You deserve this. We hope you enjoy retirement with your wife, the pups, and all the horses you have, but you will definitely...
I think he has 7 horses? He has a lot.
I think so, yeah. I think so.
He has a lot of horses.
Doc, you will be missed. Thank you for all the memories. It definitely won't be the same, but thank you very, very much. And on that note, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Bottom Line Podcast. If you have any thoughts on anything we discussed, and if you agree or disagree with any of our lists, or if you have any favorite Doc moments of your own, use the hashtag #ThankYouDoc, first of all. But be sure to leave us your thoughts on Twitter and Instagram at BottomLineWMCX, and on Twitter at The NVP Show. Use hashtag Bottom Line. Voice message on Anchor, the app, or at anchor.fm. And please leave a like and a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. And please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you do not miss a single episode. And please subscribe on all audio listening platforms. Just include Jimmy when searching for this podcast. So before we wrap things up, a quick announcement for next Thursday's episode, which is October 29th of 2020. We will actually be having a special guest on. She's actually one of my very good friends from back in college at Monmouth University, my alma mater. She's doing her own thing at I forget the exact name of the sports station. I have to look it up, but she's doing her own thing in Virginia right now. She hosts her own radio show called The SWAT Team, fitting with her last name. Her name is Lexi Swat. So she is my very good friend from school, and she will be joining us to talk about what she's been up to in her sports career. We'll be talking to her about what it means to be a woman working in sports, because Neil, you and I are both advocates of we should have more women working in sports, because like
Absolutely.
we say, if you know sports, you deserve to work in there, especially if you are a woman, because women tend to be, what's the right word? How do I say this without
discriminated against?
What's that?
Discriminated against.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And we feel that that's not right. If you're a woman and if you know sports, you deserve to have the opportunity to work in sports, like a Jessica Mendoza, like a Beth Mowens, like a Susan Waldman.
Doris Burke.
Doris Burke, yeah, her too, absolutely. Like a Holly Rowe. I can go on and on here, but we'd be here all night. But no, seriously, she'll be talking to us about what it means to be a woman working in sports, and we'll also talk to her about a couple of current topics going on. But it should be a blast. One of my former classmates in my Hawk TV days and my WMCX days, so it should bring some nostalgia too. But Neil, this was a fun episode, a fun list. Doc will surely be missed, but I'm looking forward to doing some Whalers games this weekend, as we got 2 games coming up this weekend. This Saturday night, October 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the Whalers elite team will take on the Rockets Hockey Club, and they will play them again this Sunday night, October 25th at 6:10 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to check out all the action, go to hockeytv.com. If you do not have a subscription yet, please purchase one. That's the only way you're going to be able to watch any and all Whalers games this season. But Neil, a blast as always, my man. I will see you this weekend. I'm looking forward to doing it all again next week.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it as well.
All right. You be well. For Neil Villapiano, I'm Jimmy Fedizzi. This is the Bottom Line Podcast. See you in the next episode.